Okay, welcome back, Norwich 93 CMP. We're doing 1911. This happens to be an A1 lower frame, and we're going to do disassembly on this only. It's going to take a little bit. Reassembly is even longer, but first thing we have earlier videos took the slide off, and so that's completely gone. That assembly's done and out of the way. This is going to focus on this lower portion, and I'm telling you right now, this is one of the most important things I think to know about the 1911 besides the slide stop. We're going to take the grips off. Be very careful. The first thing we're going to do is make sure the grooves themselves are clean, and I'm looking at this one right now and it's dirty. And the reason why we're cleaning them out first is so that we can have a good mating area for our screwdriver to fit in there properly and deep enough so we don't put burrs on these screws, or worse, the screwdriver jumping out and hitting your beautiful grips and screwing them up. Another reason is you also want to have a good bite on that, because that isn't going into a very, let's say, great part of the pistol. It's actually a bushing, it's a sleeve, and it has its own threads on it, and then it's screwed into the frame, and you'll see it in a minute. But let's keep everything clean. And the first thing is to go into here and clean these out. They're not as bad as I thought. We're gonna do all four sides. You can see the gunk coming out though, folks. And that's enough to screw up with your screwdriver. The screwdriver you have should be nice and flat and square and crisp, not rounded. Your screwdrivers aren't chisels. Don't use them as such. See, there's some grime in there. And there's my toothbrush. Clean it out. If you have air, hit them with a little bit of air. Okay, so my standard screws are nice and cleaned out. I take my screwdriver. Notice what I'm doing with my thumb, folks. I'm protecting my grip. I'm also going to lay the screwdriver on top of my thumb as I put it in there. Why? That's a guide, so I don't torque it different ways. Gently move it. It moved very nice. You can, if you want at this time. I loosened it. I know it's loose. You can go up to the other one. I'm pushing in to the frame and I'm keeping it nice and square. This one was loose too. Okay. Keeping my thumb there so it doesn't slide down and get on the grips. I should hear a metallic click. I felt it actually. You can't hear it, but that means I know that the screw is out of the bushing. Okay. Same thing down here. Making sure the screwdriver doesn't fall off onto the grips. And at this point, of course, folks, take it out with your fingers, okay? Me, personally, I like putting the screws back in the same areas, into the same grip, so I'm putting them off to the side in the orientation. So this is my left grip. If it doesn't come out, obviously, I'm sorry, I should have said this. There's no magazine in there. If it's stuck on there, don't go crazy prying. One of the best things to do is just stick your finger up and push from the inside, because there's a cutout. There's my screws and my grip. Now I'm going to go over and do the opposite side. Same business, right? Trying to zoom in for you. Same business. It was loose. This one was a little tighter. Don't go crazy. If they're loose, don't put a lot of pressure on these if you can help it. My upper is going to go to the upper to the right where I'm going to lay my grip down. I just wanted to get it enough where you can get big fat fingers on it. That one's coming straight off. Now I want to show you, these are the bushings that I'm talking about. These are sleeves basically screwed into the frame. The idea is that if you strip them out, the inside, instead of screwing the whole gun up by the frame losing its threads because of the screws, they added these sleeves. So there's one step in between. If you screw this screw up or you screw the bushing up, you can back the bushing off and replace the bushing, so you're not wrecking the whole gun. That's why they did that. Okay. The baluster Molinas did away with these, so there's 4 less parts to mill out, and they put it straight into the frame. That's why they're a little bit different of a gun. All right, we got the grips off, and I'm just doing a quick visual inspection, make sure there's no cracks in the frame anywhere. Looks like a real nice gun. This is beautiful. Okay, I am not going to remove the bushings in this video. My hammer's cocked back. My safety theoretically is on. It's a little bit higher than normal, if you can see that. It's under pressure, and there's going to be a plunger that's on this. The hammer has a couple parts. There's a pin on it, then there's a little spur that goes down into the mainspring housing. It's a plunger, and it pushes up against the spring tension in the mainspring housing, which is down here. We're going to relieve the pressure, ride the hammer forward. What I mean by riding it is you're bringing it up gently. You're not letting it go home where it can start cracking stuff. So I took the pressure off the mainspring housing, excuse me, the spring in the mainspring housing, and you'll notice that this pin here has a concave section, and here's concave, and this is a convex. This is the way, excuse me, this is the way we're going to push this pin through. When I do this, it's a little awkward in the sense that I'm going to see how much pressure's on it, but sometimes I'll put it down on something that's hard, and I'll push down the same time as I tap it out. We'll see what happens. I'm going to see if I can start it the way it is and go from there and see what happens. I'm doing this for the benefit of the video. I'd be doing this in a certain area of my workbench where there's a groove, so I'm not hitting it down onto like something that's solid. I'm going to rest my hand here to keep it up in the air a little bit. I'm just going to start it and see what we get. All right, so she went easy. This is the point where I was telling you putting a little pressure on it sometimes helps, because the spring pressures in here. When I'm doing this, I'll be releasing the frame up towards the sky while the lanyard loop sits towards the bench, and I'll take off the spring pressure. So I'm pushing down towards the bench, and I'm pushing the pin out. So the pin is out. Now I'm just gonna gently, look at that. It stayed. It's so gooked in there that it actually stayed. All right. I still keep my hand on here, and I'm gonna cock it, and I'm gonna hope that the spur off of the hammer, the plunger, pushes it down and off. We'll see what happens. It does. It's doing it. So see how it released it right there? And it didn't go down any further. Okay, so now at this point you can pull it out with your hand. I'm gonna put the safety on. Should be able to pull it out. Pull out the mainspring housing. We'll deal with this a little later. Zoom out for you guys. That's the plunger that comes directly from the hammer. So if I push it on this, nope, she doesn't want to go forward. All right, she doesn't want to go forward. That's fine. Now what I'm going to do is we're going to start taking the pins out from this area. And if you look from the right-hand side, you see 3 pins. Well, guess what? You really don't see any from this side. The reason is that the safety is covering most of them. You got one right there you can barely see. But we're going to take this out next. So we're going to be pinching the safety where the checkering is. Moving it up like as it's in the safe position. And I'm pinching it, pulling it towards the camera. And you can see the space that I'm developing behind it. And I'm pulling straight out, okay? That's your safety. Put it to the side. You'll notice that this one's really, really cruddy. And we'll talk about that in a minute. that's where the safety pin portion went through, and that's one of the 3 that's out, but we have 2 more. Now, again, see the convex parts of the pins? These are flat over here. That's the way you're going to put it back together later on, okay? I like taking everything out the same way, basically. So these pins here, I'm going to push from the right to the left. Let's see what happens. All right, so there's one. Putting it down, and I can pull the hammer out now. That's the hammer pin. My God, look at that. Oh my gosh. Grip safety comes out. They're both the same. Holds it, retains the same ones. Holy shit, look at that. So inside here, so this is a spring. It's got 3 tabs on it, does different functions. But in here is the sear and the disconnector, and that's all on the smaller pin. There's the disconnector right there. So basically it rides in this portion of the slide, and when it's sticking up into that hole area, it's able to fire. But if the slide's back a little bit, it catches it, disengages the disconnector, and won't let the sear, won't let the gun fire. That's what that's all about, okay? I'm gonna push through the pin again, same way, right to left. It's going very, very, very easily. And I want you to look at these heads of these pins now. See that? That's the flat side, convex side. They're only gonna go in later on one way. And this is the mainspring one. Also has a notch in here at the bottom of the plunger for the spring. Catches on that, basically keeps it in place. Okay, now with the disconnector pin out, I'm gonna get my mainspring housing out. Not mainspring housing, my spring here. And sometimes it's hard to get out. I'm using a magnet because it was in kind of twisted because of the spring itself. You got to sometimes keep it at a right angle so that you can remove it. Oh my gosh, I don't think I've ever seen one like that in my life. It's preserving the gun. I don't think I'm going to find any rust on this gun on the inside, but that's what that part is. Now, still inside, because of the grease is holding them in place, are the sear. And I'm going to try, I want to get a light on for you guys. It goes in one way. When we put it together, it's a really pain in the neck to do this part. And right here is the top of the sear, which engages with that little cut that's on the hammer. And the disconnector is below it, and it's a little harder to see because it's covered by the sear, but it looks like they're going to come out in one piece, even though they're 2 pieces. Holy cow. So there's that plunger portion that sticks up into the slide. This part here, the sear, catches on the bottom of the hammer, and they come apart just like that. And I'll show you how to put them together properly for the reassembly, okay? Because we still got some work to go here. All the guts are basically out of here. The only 2 things we have left is the safety and the trigger. Trigger will not come out until the safety comes out. And how we get that out is, and this is another area where somebody could really screw up. Have a good screwdriver, clean out that area. I'm going to clean it out right now. And you can already see there's a burr, a slight burr right there. That's from somebody taking it apart probably once. So this is the mag release, and there's a notch in there. And when we unscrew it, you'll see why we're doing this. Let's see if I can catch it. Come on. Come on, baby. Trying to find, there's a tab on that screw. Oh, I almost had it. There's a tab on the screw. there's a tab on the screw that when you turn it, catches in the groove of this body portion of it. I'm just having trouble doing it right now, of course. Maybe I'll pull one out of the box and I'll show you what they look like so you can see it. Stand by. Gotta pull one out of the box so you can see what it looks like. And I can get a better look at it again too. Move my part. Sorry about that, folks. I normally don't do that. So I'm pushing on the opposite side, which is to release it. You can see the cut that's right there. Here's the spring, and you can see where the tab is and where it goes into the groove. So what I'm trying to do is, it's like this right now. So I'm pushing in on the opposite side, and I'm trying to get it to go in that groove, but she's not going in. But you have to press it to do it. Oh, there we go. I got it. See how it wasn't fully there, but it wasn't, you know, light. It was somewhere in between, and for some reason it finally went in. It's very loose right now. I'm going to pull it out from the right hand side towards the camera gently and just put it down. Now the trigger can come out the back. That's the back part of the trigger, that little flat part. It's a loop basically. Pull it straight back. It will only go in one way. You'll see that this is a little higher up. You can't really reverse it. And then this angle is going to be like this when we put it back together. And that's the trigger. Okay. Now you have a housing here, and you have a plungers in here. They only go in and out one way. I push from this side. This, I can tell you, these things were great. I can push. There's my plunger assembly. There is a little slop to this. I've seen them where the spring was bent in there, and the reason is it'll retain inside there and won't go flying out once you take the gun apart. When we took the safety off, I was actually pretty surprised it actually didn't move. There's little detents on the spring here, and they go onto these nubs on each of the plungers. You'll notice one is straight and long. That's going to go to the rear to the safety. This one with a little shelf to it, that's going to go towards the slide stop, okay? Be very careful not to lose those pieces. Remove my thing. These come out, there's two little holes right there. I don't remove it unless I have to. I just leave it alone and clean it the way it is. I don't see any reason. There is a pin that holds the ejector in there. There's the back side of it right there. I leave that in place, and I say I'm going to leave the bushings in place. I'm not going to mess with those. If there's nothing wrong with them, don't mess with it. But that's the full disassembly of the lower frame on the 1911 A1. This happens to be a Sistema. All right, folks, I'm going to clean it, and then the next video is going to be putting it back together, which is a pretty big video. Thanks.